Hello, we are live.
Hello, all. My name is Aaron Hall. I'm here with Rylan Warner. We're attorneys at Joseph and Hall, and we are here for our weekly quick update on news in the immigration world. And as always, if anybody is watching live and has questions, we will answer them in the comments. If not, if you're watching later, then you can always feel free to reach out to us or catch us live next Thursday. We're here every Thursday at noon Mountain Time. So, Rylan, why don't you start with our update about the suit on behalf of Ukrainians?
Sure, yeah. So I just wasn't sure if we had spoken about it here before, so I just wanted to give an update about we have Joseph and Hall, that is our firm, and our firm is part of an organization called Impact Litigation. A lot of people that tune into this live stream already know that because they're looking for updates on the Impact litigation lawsuits that are ongoing. But in case you're tuning in to Joseph and Hall because you're a huge fan of our firm, and maybe you don't know about our partnership and Impact, it's a national organization of 4 firms now, and we love to sue the government when they have made huge mistakes of a very broad scope that affect a lot of people. Impact steps in and we tell the government, hey, why are you messing up? Let's get this fixed. And we've had a lot of success with a lot of cases for consular appointments, for K1s and immediate relatives, and EADs for people and employment-based visas. We've been suing for all sorts of things for all sorts of people all across the United States and abroad. So if you don't know about Impact yet and you think, hey, this sounds like maybe something I should get in on, feel free to visit our website, impactlitigation.com. And you can see all the ongoing cases that we have going on. So the case that I wanted to talk about, the case that I'm excited about right now, is our case for Ukrainians that entered the United States. As many people tuning in, I'm sure know, they're following the war, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. A lot of Ukrainians fled Ukraine to enter into the United States under a program called Uniting for Ukraine, and previous to that, just humanitarian parole in general. But for a lot of the people that entered in, they were supposed to have been treated exactly as we would treat refugees. And refugees that are entered into the United States, they are authorized to work incident to status. That means that they shouldn't even need to apply for an EAD card, but they still can, just to prove to employers that might be willing to hire them, but be unsure about whether or not they should because they just don't know the laws. So these Ukrainians should have been allowed to work, but then also should have been allowed to get an employment authorization document with no filing fee cost to them, because that's how we treat refugees that enter into the United States. Note that this is slightly different from asylees and asylum seekers. So refugees and asylum seekers, although they're very, very similar, they're treated slightly different in this regard. Just in terms of when they can get EADs or when they're authorized to work in the United States. So we're suing the government because what they're doing to Ukrainians is saying, hey, number one, you shouldn't be authorized to work incident to status. And number two, pay us the filing fees for your EADs. And so even though they shouldn't have been doing that, they were doing that. And we're saying to the government, hey, what are you doing? Why are you charging people money for this? You shouldn't be charging money for this. And then on the other half of that, if people have already paid money for EADs to you, you should refund that money to them. So that's what we're suing for. We just got it filed in what did we file it in Illinois, Aaron? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Northern District of Illinois.
The Northern District of Illinois, and we got it filed in the middle of August. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it today is because I saw AILA, which is one of the national immigration networks and organizations, they had mentioned it in one of their daily briefings yesterday, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, that's us." Why am I not talking about this right now on our own live stream? So here we go. I'm at it. Aaron, do you know? Is it possible still if anybody could still join the suit, or have we closed off accepting any new uh, plaintiffs for the case?
Yeah, we're not adding plaintiffs at this time, but it is a class action, so there will be a motion for a class certification, and the anybody who entered under the United for Ukraine program should be able to benefit from it, whether you're a named plaintiff or not, if we're successful, obviously. I think the other thing to note is that we filed this lawsuit, and I know that there are ongoing discussions with the government attorneys now about our arguments and about whether there's a way to resolve this short of a court order. So we'll keep people updated, but it's an exciting case, and really, I think everybody should be on the same side here: the government agency, us, the plaintiffs. So I would hope that we can orient towards a solution that just recognizes that these people shouldn't have to be filing for work permits, and they certainly shouldn't have to be paying fees to the agency to do so.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I also like about this case is that we're doing this case pro bono for people. So we can't always do that for all of these cases, but for this case, we decided, hey, any plaintiff that wanted to bring their case, we're going to do it for you for free. And then, like Aaron said, it is a class action. So even if you weren't a plaintiff, hopefully this will get you some relief, whether or not you're involved in the case. So tooting of horns, and it's done. Okay. All right, Aaron, I know you wanted to talk about an update that you saw for humanitarian parole for Afghans. Is that right?
Yeah, I saw this news report this morning. It's from a reporter for CBS News named Camila Montoya Galvez, and he reports that he was on a call with DHS officials, and that they are alerting the press right now, just the press, through these kind of informal background conversations. I'm sure there will be an official announcement at some point, but they're saying that Afghans will no longer be considered for humanitarian parole beginning on October 1st. So a little bit of background. With the fall of the Afghan government after the United States left Afghanistan and the takeover by the Taliban, I'm sure everybody remembers that there were scenes of lots of people at the airport trying to get evacuated because with Taliban control, they were fearful of what could happen to them and to their families. Lots of these people worked either directly with U.S. or coalition forces or indirectly, and were fearful that cooperation, that work that they did in helping us and our troops, put them and their families at danger from the Taliban. So there were, a lot of people evacuated right then at the airport, but the scenes were really chaotic. And so who got onto a plane and who didn't, I think, boiled down to a lot of luck at the time. But after we left with the last plane, what the U.S. government said was, if you were, an Afghan who was left behind, or if you have family that is still there and in danger for these reasons, you can file this application called humanitarian parole. And you file it with an agency called USCIS here in the United States. And if it's approved, we will work to facilitate their entry to the United States. So lots of people did this on behalf of family in Afghanistan and family who had fled Afghanistan as well, taking our government at its word that these were potentially viable applications. And then since July of 2021 through about August 17th, so these statistics are pretty current, they received 50,000 humanitarian parole requests from Afghans abroad. Of those 50,000 requests, these applications that they received, they have adjudicated fewer than 10,000 of them, denying 9,000, or 95% of them, according to USCIS statistics. So these are nearly blanket denials, and each application has a filing fee. So if you're trying to get a family of 5 over here, you're actually filing 5 applications. What's the filing fee, Ryland? Do you remember?
I think it's $535.
Okay. So we're talking about over $500 per time. So times
times 50,000,
Yeah.
$26,750,000.
So USCIS takes in around $26 million from this program, from this announcement, and basically denies them all. And now they're announcing that they won't even be considered after October 1st. Now, this is based on one report from one reporter about a phone call that he had with DHS officials. I have no reason to doubt it, but what's not clear is what happens with the applications that are already pending. I assume that those will be adjudicated, even if it's after October 1st, because they were filed before then. But that's kind of cold comfort, because they're denying almost all of them anyway, right?
Yeah.
So we have, $26 million for basically just accepting a bunch of applications and denying them in mass. And it's really tough to swallow, I think, when you consider that a lot of these individuals and their families really stuck their necks out to work with the U.S. government and coalition forces, and they're really at danger. I mean, I know of individuals who have been attacked or killed while their applications have been waiting. There have been public reporting on it. So it's tough to swallow. It's really hard, especially when you put it next to what our government has been able to do for Ukrainians, like we were talking about in the first topic, which is great. They've facilitated so many entries on humanitarian parole for Ukrainians, which is wonderful. But when you put it next to what they've done for Afghans, which is basically nothing, very close to nothing, it's upsetting, and it's hard to understand why we've done this. And so what the reporting says is after October 1st, you should just file a normal application, which means you have to have a relative who is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, or maybe somebody who's been granted asylum before they can even think about petitioning for you. Meanwhile, you're stuck. So that's really kind of the bad news of this update. The Ukrainian program is going mostly well. We're litigating on one piece of it to try to make it work better for people. But the Afghan humanitarian parole program has just been, in my opinion, an abject failure. Obviously, congratulations to the less than 1,000 that have been approved since they started accepting these applications in July 2021. But for the rest of people, the denials have just come without much explanation, and it's upsetting to see. So that's all I have.
Yeah, and for all those pending applications, I mean, who knows when they'll even be adjudicated? I mean, we've been waiting a year for a lot of them. So, and maybe we have no idea. I mean, at the rate that they're going, it could be 10 years before they get through this backlog. It's wild. So I don't know. It's very, very frustrating. And to offer that up, say, hey, we're just not going to accept these types of applications anymore. It speaks to how many of them they're receiving. And that speaks to how important and such a crisis it is for so many people. Yet, oh well, hopefully you have an immediate relative that you can try to utilize in the United States, as if you wouldn't have done that already. There's just very, very little options for people that can't get this. And even if they can, even if they can submit an application before October, the likelihood of a denial is so high. So very, very frustrating. I hope that we can figure out something soon, but I don't know. I wish we had reversed these stories and I had gone second.
That was my mistake.
Yeah.
I see we have one question.
Yeah. So Osama says, hi, Aaron, specifically. I know that it's difficult to predict and everything depends on the appeal, but he wants your opinion. Do you expect an increase in the number of visas reserved for plaintiffs in the Go case, or is it going to stay as 31%?
Yeah, so this question, hello, Osama, to you. This question is about the Go case, which is our litigation on DV 2021, Diversity Visas 2021. And to give people a little bit of background, so we had had one summary judgment in this case at the district court, and the district court reserved visas representing what he thought would be about a 31% chance for remaining Go plaintiffs to get their visas issued. And he came up with that percentage after doing some calculations in his order and deciding that that's what would put them in a similar position to where they would have been if the Department of State had actually followed the law during the whole fiscal year. So we won the case, but then the government decided to appeal the main win. And because they appealed and the issue was already going to be appealed, we filed a cross appeal saying, okay, well, we think the order is mostly right, but the number, the 31%, is way too low. And actually what we argued was that every one of our remaining plaintiffs should be scheduled for a visa appointment and have their application adjudicated on the merits. Why? Because there were more than enough visas remaining in DB 2021 in the fiscal year. There were plenty. And because the way that the Department of State calculates the selectees each year is to try to maximize the use of visas. So there's 55,000 per year that are allocated. The Department of State selects more than that, knowing that a certain chunk of the selectees will either decide that they don't want to follow through with the process because they don't want to move. Maybe they have life circumstances that have changed. Maybe they have career circumstances that have changed, but whatever reason, they don't follow through. And then there are some that don't qualify, even though they were selected. They aren't qualified for the visa. So our point to the appellate court is that the judge made a mistake by assuming that all of the selectees both want to immigrate to the United States and are qualified to immigrate to the United States. What our point was that our plaintiffs are actually a self-selected group who are highly motivated and likely to qualify for the visa. And so to compare them against another group who has abandoned the process is unfair. That's not how it should work, because they would have a greater chance because they would be the ones pursuing the visa. So that is the argument up at the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia right now. And the oral argument on this issue is on the 16th of September. That will be one of many issues at argument. Arguing for us is Charles Cook, and he will make these arguments. Now, that's a long wind up, Osama, to getting to your question. What are the chances that they're going to actually increase the numbers? That the courts is going to take all these arguments and look at this one sub issue and say we're going to increase the number of visas issued. This isn't going to be very satisfying, but I truly have no idea. So we know who our panel of judges is now, and for what it's worth, one was appointed by Obama, one by Bush, and one by Trump. So we know our panel, but we don't really have a good sense of it. Osama's asking for my opinion. I don't know what my opinion's worth. I think that our arguments are good. I think that they make sense. I think that that Judge Mehta overlooked this in his order. But is it something that the appellate court's going to want to step in on? I don't know. If you made me guess, I would say that it's more likely that the number stays than goes up. Stays where it is, then goes up. But like I said, my guess isn't worth that much. I hope that we win the main part of the case, which is that the visas get reserved and that our arguments were correct. And then I also hope that the number gets increased But that really would be icing on the cake. That would be a complete and total victory, and I don't know how likely it is. So sorry for not being able to quantify it more than that, Osama. But that's where my feelings are. If you ask Chuck Charles Cook about it, he would probably feel more optimistic. He's getting geared up for oral argument, and I know that he's deep into this and probably feels like the odds are better than that. So and I completely respect his opinion too. So maybe I'm underselling it, but we'll see.
Yeah, very good answer there. Very good answer. I kept trying to think.
It's like a non-answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I was trying to think of an analogy to how USCIS counts chickens before they hatch or something like that. I couldn't quite get there by the time you finish, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. And I would love to sit in on Chuck's his practice rounds for when he goes up to argument. That would be awesome. So, okay, well, that's the only question that we had for this week. Anything else you wanted to talk about, Aaron, before we sign off?
Nope. I wish everybody who's in the U.S. a good holiday weekend, and for everybody elsewhere, have a good weekend, and we will be back next Thursday.
Yeah, see you then.
Bye.
Bye.